Here we are. We are live, and I'll get that stream shared. Mr. Ethan, if you will as well.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Is my mic coming through all right?
It is. It sounds a little like heavy, if that makes sense.
Let's see. Turn off that.
There we go. Now we can make that shareable. All right. Gotta love the sun jumping on his bed. All right.
That is
all
a
good
common occurrence around here.
All right. So nobody on yet, but all right, guys. Well, thank you again for whenever everybody does decide to join the Open Fields podcast this week. I, of course, am your host, Ryan Fields, along with co-host, Mr. Ethan Landis. How are you, E?
Doing all right. Back in my normal setup than my phone last week, so that's good.
Yeah, gotta love laptop issues. Yay. But glad to see you're back on the laptop and not the phone. But everybody, again, thank you for joining us. We have a great guest this week. We have the current assistant coach, the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, Coach Rob Summers. Rob, what's going on, sir? It's been a minute.
Hey, it's been a little bit, but nothing much is going on, man. Just getting old, man. Trying to figure out this whole coaching deal in year 14. So it's fun. It's getting ready for season. SEC play is going to be crazy. Good league.
That's crazy that you've been in coaching 14 years now, and it just feels kind of like yesterday. We were in the Coliseum and either following you guys at practice with when I was with the women's basketball team, helping Coach Carey and that crew, and we're even following up you guys. But yeah, it's crazy. It's been that long now. But speaking of which, you were in Morgantown last weekend, celebrating what is going to be the 20th anniversary of the 2005 Elite Eight team. How was that for you?
It was fun. It was a good time. It was good to kind of get back and see those guys. Joe Hariber was back. Haven't seen Hariber and probably since he left school. So to see him was awesome. I saw Pissnoggle a couple last summer actually. He was following. I was out recruiting, and he was following his son, and I was able to kind of be around him. So that was cool to see those guys, man, and kind of get the experience out of our team being together.
Awesome. So as you were talking about right before we went live, Morgantown's really grown. Speaking of Morgantown, Ethan, of course, his girlfriend lives in Morgantown, so he travels out there a lot. So he's kind of seen more of the, newer version of Morgantown. He's a little bit younger than we are, but, we saw what I would like to call the original Morgantown. But what did you think of it? I mean, it really has grown up a lot since, you were there, since I was there. And what were you really thinking about when you saw, even you had mentioned about the new facilities and stuff there at the Coliseum?
It was good. That facility is unbelievable, and seeing how the town's grown, but still stay the same point in time, still knowing the one way that you can't go down and where you can turn to. But, seeing that a lot of places have stayed the same, maybe names have changed, those different spots, but just to see, them build up that area up there by Best Buy and Cheddar's and all that, and see how they expanded that and further, push that out there where there used to be nothing. So it's nice to see that it's ever expanding, and kind of just with the student population, they got to get a crumble cookie and all those great things that they bring to town.
Absolutely. And like I said, I was there. I started my journey in Morgantown at the fall of 2003. So I mean, all of that stuff up where Best Buy is, Cheddar's, as you said, Target, and all that fun stuff like that was so, I mean, it was a wooded area essentially. And then they build that up and now have the baseball park up there and so many more restaurants. So Morgantown is definitely, up and coming and getting bigger and bigger. And it's like, I used to tell people, like, there was about this many people or like this much room and this many people in Morgantown. So it definitely getting bigger and it's crazy to see. But speaking of Morgantown, your journey, of course, started in Morgantown. You said at 2004, but originally you had started coming out of Columbus, Ohio. You'd started your college basketball journey at Penn State in State College. What was recruiting wise that you got you to Penn State, and also what was it that made you decide, you know what, after 2 years at Penn State, I'm going to transfer to Coach Beeline and WVU?
Coming up in high school, I was skinny, I was a frail guy, and really wasn't a highly recruited kid. So my junior summer got really good and was able to, impress Coach Jerry Dunn, who was the head coach at Penn State at the time. So to see my development, he offered me a scholarship and wanted to visit. And I had some other mid majors, had Pittsburgh come in late and offer me a scholarship, but really connected well with Coach Dunn. So Big Ten basketball, was from Columbus, Ohio. Ohio State didn't recruit me heavily. They signed another big guy. So wanted to kind of come back home and play against them a little bit in front of my family and friends. So, being 6 hours away wasn't too far. So going there was fun because I had an opportunity to play. I was able to start as a freshman. And it's been, Coach Dunn left and, he got let go and spent another year on the head cellist for a sophomore season. Played again, but knew that with a new coach coming in, the program's kind of probably going a different direction. So ended up going into the first transfer portal back when it wasn't cool to transfer, back when it was sit out a year and it looked a little like tainted goods. And was going to think, was either going to go out west and go to Gonzaga when Gonzaga was getting huge and, they were kind of becoming a dynasty, but also was thinking about being a big fish in a small pond and going to Valpo, where, the dad Coach Drew was still there and Valpo was coming off a pretty good run. So it was like, man, it could be a big fish, small pond. And Coach Beeline had a scholarship open up and, knew I was a big guy that liked to stretch the floor a little bit, and was a good passer and wasn't super athletic, but knew how to use my IQ. And he said that's the way they play. They play a lot through their centers and that elbow catch. And when I went on to my visit, really clicked well with the team, really saw kind of what he was building. They came off like I think they won with the NIT and maybe won a game in NIT the year before I got there, but knew they were rebuilding and building something because he was 2 years or a year or two as a new head coach. And don't credit myself for transferring in and us getting good, but it was pretty fun for the fact of like coming in and then that first year, like we become like the talk of the town. We become, the West Virginia that everybody knows and love.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so you being now, 7 foot tall, I mean, you're a tall, lanky guy, obviously playing center with Coach Beeline. For those who don't know, he did run a lot of his offense through the center. So like, is that something that really enticed you to come to West Virginia and play basketball for Coach Beeline, knowing that, your type of game, obviously, and when I first heard you were coming in and saw you even in the year that you were transferring, like I didn't look at you as like the guy that's going to, play a lot on the perimeter, 7 feet tall. We want somebody with that inside presence. Was that like his style of play, what really drew you there? Or was it just the opportunity?
The style of play, I think, to the way today's game's gone, I'll probably be a lot better in today's game than I was even back then, just because the bigs now need to stretch the floor, not only to shoot the ball, be able to pass, and I was a pretty good passer from being a 7 foot. And, Coach Beeline's system was to stretch and bring, their 5 man, their best rim defender out on the perimeter. So, if we could bring their 5 man out, they don't have any rim protection. So for me to see those clips and watch those games and, even Pittsnoggles, freshman, sophomore years, he was stretching the floor, and he was, he obviously got a ton better as, his junior and senior year. But those first 2 years, he's allowed to kind of play his game. And that just really intrigued me because not too many people were allowing their bigs to kind of do that. They were more just stay inside, ground pound, and play above the rim. And, I was 7 foot, but it wasn't like I was this pterodactyl out there high flying. I was more of a angles guy and then a guy who knew how to play a little bit gritty too as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say that about like with Pittsnoggles, he really kind of exemplified that stretch 4 or 5 type of guy that could really get out to the perimeter. And I always remember him, like he would always wind up in the corner, open for a 3 at some point, and he was very good at knocking down that corner 3.
Oh no, he's one of the best shooters I've ever had the pleasure of playing against or seeing live. To see just in practice, not only and then in games, the shots that he made and. They showed a highlight tape, this past week when we came back as a team, and I was like, man, in today's game, man, his NIL package would be unbelievable with how he shot the basketball.
Yeah, I'd really like to see the numbers on that. I mean, when you can basically get your name as a verb, I mean, that's got to mean something. So, But so, I mean, obviously, like I said, you were in Morgantown celebrating the almost 20-year anniversary of the Elite Eight team. And you had mentioned, you had come in, they hadn't won a couple of games. So I think 2002, maybe won a handful of games. Coming in 2003, getting a little bit better. You come in 2004, had to sit out the year. Then, 2005, you go on that Elite Eight run. For you, what did that mean to you to come into that program where just a few years ago they had only won a handful of games, to now an Elite Eight tournament, and you're a part of that? Elite Eight, game against it was Louisville we lost to, if I'm not mistaken, which we did have a pretty big lead there in the first half. Unfortunately, lost in the second half. But what did that mean to you as a member of that team? To be a part of something so special that just a few years ago, was just kind of, at the lower point of, West Virginia basketball.
I mean, I didn't understand it as much at the time. I just was happy to be winning, coming from a program at Penn State where we weren't, knocking it out of the park, the wins column, just so to see that and to see the state of West Virginia kind of get behind you was special. We were on cloud nine, it felt great that it's, you were the pro team. And that was one thing that intrigued me about, going to West Virginia, is that the whole state was behind you. You didn't have any NBA team or anybody else to root for. So you rooted for the Mountaineers. So for us to be successful, and at that time football was just started, was rocking too. So you had two sports, that were just, killing it, in the nation. And to see that and then have that support, I think that those guys on that team, it will always hold a near dear spot in our hearts for sure.
It definitely kept close to you there with your jersey in the background on the wall. So always good to see it. So, and then of course you're there for a couple more years, and you get if I'm not mistaken, you got an NIT championship out of it, correct?
Yeah,
last year?
Yeah. That last year, we brought a lot of freshmen in. It was me and Frank Young senior year, and we weren't really expected to be, to be good. And we brought in, Deshaun Butler and Joe Mazzulla and Wellington Smith and those guys, and so we brought in, like, I want to say a freshman class of 7 or 8. Right? So it was, it was just me, Joe Alexander, Frank, Ruoff, and Nichols. Ted talking. We were the guys that kind of had been there. Jamie Smulligan just came off and to be, the sit out guy the year before. So we were young. We were really young in the grand scheme of things. So to be able to kind of put some stuff together and to be tight, I think we were in the top 15. I don't know if we ever got top 10 that year, but we were in the top 15 at some point. And we lost a couple of games there late that kind of hurt us with the NCAA tournament. And when we got to the NIT, we said, well, look, if we're going to be in it, we might as well win it. We were all upset about not making it to the tournament, and we just didn't want to focus on that. We wanted to, Coach Beeline had a good saying. He said, only 2 teams in their year on a win, the NCAA tournament champion and the NIT champion. Everybody else is going to end their season have lost, and they're going to be crying, no matter if you go to Final Four or Sweet 16 or whatever it is. It's going to be sad. So we kind of took that on ourselves, and it was fun. It was fun to go out as a winner.
Absolutely. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, obviously with the last second shot that was it Darius that hit the last second shot against Mississippi State in the semis. And then of course you come back in the championship game from, if I recall again, is Clemson. You beat Clemson in the championship game. Again, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, when you guys got those championship shirts and they misspelled West Virginia, did you guys notice that at first? Or no one knew they were misspelled, but probably that night on ESPN. I think we were just so excited to have won, and we had poured everything to that season. So when they handed us those things, we just threw them on and just smiled and hugged each other, told each other we loved them, and we didn't read them until now it's like it's in every sports business book. You'll see the marketing department's like, hey, this is where this is what you can't do. This is what you should not do.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like you guys get back to the locker room, you're like, is that can't be spelled right?
Man, I don't even know if we really noticed in the locker room. We were just so excited. I'm telling you, we were so excited. It was just like smiles and everything, and interviews and. I didn't get asked any of my interviews. I think it was like literally like we're in like the hotel and like people like texting us on our phones and just like, hey, you need your shirts misspelled, and we're kind of looking and we're like, wow, like. So they only printed out a certain amount of those shirts, and then I think they sent us like the some shirts that were spelled correctly. I actually still have mine. It's a little dingy in a box in my basement. So at some point my son will get that shirt.
Like I said, I had to ask. Since, if you guys watching don't know what we're talking about, look up the NIT championship shirts from WVU from back in 2007. So, but anyway, so you've graduated college. What was your professional journey like? I kind of just read a little bit into it. It wasn't drafted out of college. It was a developmental draft that you might have been in, but you did end up going overseas. Talk about what the process was after college, going to playing professionally.
Wanted to always play pro. Obviously wanted to go to the NBA like everybody. So when I got a chance to go to the development league and let's call it the G League now, was fun. Just to put a somewhat NBA jersey on, but I knew that, the way the game was going, they were going to send guys down. They were in those two-way contracts, and they wasn't getting a ton of playing time, so I decided to go overseas and spent my first season in Portugal. Loved it. Was on an island in Madeira, and then it was the kind of mercenary. I was an overseas player that just wanted to, kind of make tax-free money and didn't care where it was at. I'll go to Saudi Arabia. I'll go to Lebanon. I'll go to Uruguay. I'll go to Morocco. I'll go to Romania. I'll go to Austria. Like, I will play anywhere. South Korea. Like, I played probably in every continent except like Antarctica. So to be able to go and play, have tax-free money, be a pro for those years I was overseas, it's something that I enjoyed. I probably should have spent a little more time, honestly, traveling around. When I was over there, I was playing a lot of video games, a lot of Call of Duty or Rock Band, just by myself in my room and missing home and just counting the days back till I got to the U.S. But definitely enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed my time playing pro.
Absolutely. You got anything for me?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like it's like cool, but it's also you probably miss home at the same time. But you're getting to experience all these type of cultures and stuff like that, like the different styles of the game as well. I'm sure there were some different places that you went to where it's like, man, this is way different, like style of game than like in the US they would play. You know what I mean? It's a lot more. I don't know how to say it, but like there's some that are just like more like mechanical. I want to say like pass, shoot, layup, instead of like get out and run, that type of thing. So like, what was like the different styles that you really like picked up on, or was there one that like you really enjoyed more than the others?
I don't know if it's the style. It's just, I think it was across the board, just being American playing overseas, you're relied on heavily. So depending on the country that you're in, you're allowed a certain amount of Americans on the court at a time or on the team. When I was in South Korea, you only allowed 2 Americans on the team. Only 2 could play together in the first and the third. And then the second and fourth, only 1 American was allowed to play at a time. So you were pretty much subbing the other American out, and then it was pretty much a one-on-one basketball almost between you and whoever on the other team. So you relied on heavily, which is something that I enjoyed. Being somewhat a role player, with Virginia, and not really being like the go-to guy to be overseas and kind of have your number called. Felt good during those times. But I think it was just more of you're relied on heavily. Every American has a huge role in every team. There's really, especially where in the countries I played in. I don't know about certain other countries, but where I was at, you had to foot the bill. You had to score. You had to rebound. You had to produce. If you didn't, you would get sent home.
Hey man, that's just how America's number one. They're like, you can only have one of these guys on the floor at one time, okay? You have 2 of them out here.
No, for real.
I'm actually kind of glad you asked that question, D, because that was actually going to be my next question, was the kind of the difference in the playing style between overseas and our current over here in the States, especially Coach Beilein's type of offense and the way he ran things too. So you're overseas, and then after that, you're how long did you play overseas for, Rob?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So then, all right. So after your third year, you then get into coaching, if I'm not mistaken. And I do apologize for not knowing where you started after your professional career, but I can tell you where you've been, just not necessarily in the order. So if you want to talk about the order, I know you were at JMU at one time. I know you were at Urbana, Miami of Ohio. You've mentioned Glenville. So, I mean, talk about your early part of your coaching career and kind of where it has led to where you're at now, sitting in your office in Columbia, Missouri at the University of Missouri.
So my last year overseas, I got hurt, and I came back during the summertime to kind of do some rehab in Morgantown, and had a chance to talk with Coach Huggins, just kind of about, I need to do rehab. Didn't have insurance because when you're overseas, you don't have insurance. So coming back and being able to use the facilities and talk with the trainers there, and he's like, "Well, you thought about getting the coach?" And I was like, "I don't know," So ended up taking a grad position. So like, all right, I can't go overseas. I want to take. So I took a grad position with the team there, just kind of helping out, doing a lot with the academic side of the team, and just being around, bringing around Hugs and his staff. So spend that year, and probably got halfway through the season, and I saw Glenville State had a position open up on a website, and didn't know much about Glenville, and kind of asked Hugs like, "What do you think about this, assistant Division II job?" And he said, "I'm going to call him." And I was like, whoa, I just asked you about this job. I didn't apply for it or anything. He said, I'm calling. I know the guys down there. I'm going to call him. So he ended up calling down there, and got me an interview and said, "You got to take the job." And I was like, "Man, let me think about it. Let me pray about it. I'm talking to my family." Because I still wanted to go back overseas, to be honest. I really wanted to keep playing. But after praying and talking to my family, I'd been around the team, and the guys kind of gravitated toward me, as a former player, having somebody that kind of had been in their shoes, helped them in their journey, and went to Glenville and was down there for 2 years. Joe Mizzouri just got done. So I was a GA when Joe was a senior, and then Joe called me like halfway through the summertime, like, "Hey man, I'm going to come down there too." I was like, "Well, hey man, like I'm sure they'll take 2 former West Virginia players. It'll be pretty cool to have those in the state." So me and Joe spent 2 years there. I left to go to James Madison's ops guy. Joe went to Fairmont, and went spend 1 year as ops guy at James Madison just to get Division I experience. Left there to go to Urbana, like you said, was a head Division II coach for a program that was rebuilding. So spent 3 years at Urbana as a head coach, kind of learning how to call timeouts and how to handle all those pressures of being a head basketball coach. Left there, back to James Madison again as assistant. Just because I want to be a Division I head coach at some point, and do I need to get the Division I assistant coach experience? Left there after 2 years to go to Cleveland State to work for Coach Gates. Was there for 3 years. Was able to turn that program around, went to the NCAA tournament, won 3 championships there, and then from there, Coach Gates got the University of Missouri job. My third daughter, was being born, and really didn't want to move the family, 7 hours away to Columbia, Missouri at the time. So decided to go down with Coach Steele to Miami, Ohio. Was there for 2 years as associate head coach in the MAC, which really good league. Working for Coach Steele was phenomenal. Great guy, great coach. Learned a lot under him. And then this past year, Coach Gates had a position open up on his staff again, and said, "What do you think about coming out here to Columbia?" And spoke with my wife, and we felt like it was the right time to go off and get some high major experience. I've had experience at every level there is. Whether Division II, low major, mid major, Division I. So the kind of the last box to check as far as becoming a head coach at some level, in Division I, was to get that P5 or P4 or whatever it is nowadays with the realignments. And it was able to get here and been here for the last 4.5 months, and just getting ready for that first season of SEC play.
That's awesome. Well, of course, I'm proud of you, good sir. Congratulations on all the success that you've had, and all the no matter where you're at, whether it be Division II, Division I. Obviously, I really hope you get that D1 head coaching job at some point. But speaking of Division II and Division I, speak if you can quickly. I know we're on kind of like a time crunch here because like I said, you got practice here soon again. But if you can talk about we mentioned in the very beginning, like with the NIL nowadays, and everything, like kind of if you can talk about like how is that immensely changed from your time playing in the NCAA to now coaching the NCAA. Like, what can you talk about with that? And like, how much has it really, in your opinion, kind of changed the game or changed collegiate athletics?
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since my first year. So I can only imagine, a lot of guys retiring and guys getting out of the business, how they feel. When you've been coaching for probably those, 30, 40 years, those guys are like, this is like night and day. And for me, 14 years, like it feels like night and day a little bit to me as well. But I think that it's a really good thing for these guys. I think that, they deserve to be paid. Me and my teammates at West Virginia talked about it all the time. Like, man, you walk by, you see your jersey in the bookstore, and you're struggling to kind of eat, and it's like You really people always talk about like, hey, you got free tuition. That's great. I'm still paying off a student loan. I tell people all the time, myself, student loan. Now I should have paid it off a long. I got that might have paid. I deferred it probably a million times, and I'm paying like whatever probably the minimum is, and I'm probably paid over a lot of money in interest. But hopefully somebody's gonna waive my student loan at some point, and I'll get out of paying like the last $800 I owe. But I was taking 1200 a semester out just to have that get around money for my truck, just to have some money to if I wanted to go to the movies, and like that was. I think when you're putting that much time into a sport, into the university, you deserve to be compensated for it. So having that has changed, in the grand scheme of things. But I tell guys all the time, you got to go somewhere, not only where, your NIL package is great, but where those guys care about you and they want to help you, because at the end of the day, that money's going to fade away. And for a lot of these guys, this might be the most money they make for a while. So are they going to be around people that are going to help them, put them around the right people, and not just let them become another, tool that they coach you use to win games? Because that's why I didn't get into it. I don't know. I never want to get to the point where I'm just using guys to win games. I want to really develop these young men and really make them feel like, hey man, 10 years from now, Coach Summers really helped me out a lot. He helped me grow. He helped me as a man, and I think that's where you got to find the good balance in NIL.
Well, I was going to say, E, you as a former collegiate athlete as well, I figured you'd speak on it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that he couldn't have said it better. It's one of those things where you're seeing, I mean, maybe not like whenever I played D2, but like you said, you're seeing your own jersey in the bookstore and it's, like $200. It's like, and you're not getting a thing for it. And it's just one of those things where, I completely agree with the NIL things. And I think honestly, it could incentivize some of those guys to stay longer. You're seeing the one and dones a lot, but now there's not that, you're not making that, it's not a huge of a leap to go pro from college anymore in terms of the financial part of it. So I think all around it is definitely a positive thing.
Sure, for sure. I don't like I said. I know it gets a lot of negativity and in the news sometimes. The guys that sit out and guys on the leave and all things like that. But as long as you're honest and upfront, and I know sometimes coaches can be dishonest, players can be dishonest. There's dishonest people in every business there is. But that's why I say it's intricate that you tie or relate with people that are good people, and you make sure that these coaches are good people that you're getting recruited by. Like, it sounds good if people say, I want to go best fit. You really need to go best fit. You really need to really think about that as a student athlete now, because at the end of the day, if you start, making your goals entwined with the head coach's goals, who doesn't have your best interest at heart, it's not going to work out. No matter what the NIL number is, no matter what it is, it's going to bite somebody in the butt.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, it has to be best fit. You can't just go money chasing. It's one of those things where it's like, that can only get you so far, because like you have to like at a certain point with NIL stuff, I feel like you have to perform, and then that's when you get even more of it down the road. But that's just me. I mean, you would know better than I do, but so
no, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that for sure.
So,
well, speaking of performing, with you said you had the opportunity to coach with Coach Gates, who is the current head coach at the University of Missouri. Went in a different direction for a year, but now are back with Coach Gates at the University of Missouri, which unfortunately, coming off of a year where it was kind of a disappointment in Columbia. Finished the year 8-24, unfortunately 0-18 in the SEC. So if you can, real quick, like I said, because I know we're short on time, you're getting ready to go to practice, but what makes this team, what are your expectations for this season, first and foremost? What can you improve, obviously, from last year, from an 8-24 squad, and what expectations do you really have for this season going forward?
Expectations, I don't want to put any on this year. I really just want our guys to just get better each day. And I know it's a cliche the coaching term, they get better each day. But we say it every day to our guys, though, man, just be the best version of yourself. And like, if we can be the best versions of ourselves, I think we have a good team. We've added a lot of guys in the transfer portal. We got some good freshmen here that can help us. And I think that it's a brand new team, in that stage. And I think just last year, and we don't talk about it much, and rightfully so. I think in this day and age of the transfer portal, teams could be phenomenal one year and not very good the next year, and vice versa, not very good year one year and the next year make this huge jump. So it's less of the bringing in a freshman class and just you got to wait 3 years until those guys are juniors. Now it's you can just so better. And I think that we've been having some good practices. I think we expect a lot of ourselves, but we expect to go out and be a good brand for Mizzouri. Obviously football is phenomenal right now, and they're doing a lot of great things. And I think that overall the university has puts a huge emphasis on athletics because, and rightfully so, SEC is the Premier League in the country. So we're excited about the year. Our guys are juiced about the year. We're ready to get things going, as a team. And I think that we started practice up already, and we're in the middle of two-a-days. So we're just looking forward to tipping that ball off. I think November 4th against Memphis, and we'll get things going. But like you said, man, with that being said, my boss has walked in probably 3 times since I've been on this call, and I told him, I said, Coach, we move practice, but I can't cancel on my guys, man. I told him, I said, man, I told him I was doing the podcast. I gotta hop on this podcast. I gotta make sure that I do right by him, man. But I appreciate you, Coach. You guys, man.
I appreciate you joining us. I really do. I know he's got to go, but I appreciate you very much, Coach Rob, for joining us. And next time, just let me know. We'll bring you back. We'll talk a little bit more when you get some more time. Sorry for pushing to the very last minute.
Schedule me about halfway through the season. Hopefully, I'll have a lot of good answers for you about what I expect for this season, man. We'll meet up in December or January for SEC play. Okay.
All right, sounds good, Coach. Well, I'll keep in touch with you, Coach Rob. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah. So I think, are we still on?